Do do do
Well,
dude. Hey, Chris Larson.
look at that, Jamie Jensen. How you doing? Beautiful day like
Oh,
this, sunshine everywhere, and beautiful Kitsap.
it is nice. Yeah, Scott came in earlier and said you need to just go stand outside for a couple minutes, which I haven't done.
Yeah,
But I said, why? He said, because it's a beautiful mix of sun and chilly, and depending on where you stand, and
yeah.
like literally,
It's
I didn't even get off the couch or out of bed yesterday. Um, so today I just sat at my desk. So I should
oh
still go
my.
outside for a minute. How
Yes,
are
you should.
you?
I am one of the lucky ones here in Kitsap that has power. All my
Nice.
Port Orchard friends with trees down and 50-mile-an-hour wind still
Oh
screaming
my
through. But it's the freshest air we've had in forever when it's that much wind.
yeah, for sure. No, I looked at we woke up, our power went flashed a couple times last night.
Yeah,
And then I was surprised when we woke
yeah,
up with power today, and I looked at the PSE map and I'm like, goodness gracious, it's like that tornado hit Port Orchard again, and the
yeah,
north end, it looks like, and part
yeah.
of Seebeck. So we lucked out.
Especially where you guys are, you're the ones that always go out and never come back. So yeah, you
Right.
definitely as many trees are around your little valley there. Yeah, goodness sakes.
Yeah, I expected it'd come straight up the canal and just boom, but no,
Yeah,
not, I mean, knock on wood, I guess it could still come, but nope, we're good.
yeah.
So
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be, and let's keep it that way. And you know what? I really actually kind of feel bad that we're talking about that. We just had a storm when our guest today um, actually lived through the there in Asheville, North Carolina, the big major storm, and actually he was probably well, he had to go through it. That's definitely, but he was supposed to fly out 4 days later to come do our shop with a cop show, and his being able to contact him while all that was going on. He wasn't sure if I was getting the text messages because everything was wiped out. And finally, he took a picture of himself with what the airport sent him that everything was shut down. And I got that picture, and I'm like, I sent back that I hear you. Okay, I'll take it from here. But there you are. I see you there right now. The funniest guy in America, the funniest guy that kicked off all the major comedy tours across America, the guy that wrote I Killed, I Am Comic, and Kicking in the Ashes, the guy that's been on TV and movies and many stages, and also the producer of the history of stand-up comedy. Is that Rich Scheidner I'm seeing right here?
It is, Chris. It is indeed. And yeah,
Yeah,
we
you.
we
welcome.
I know. I remember that. Every day we didn't have any phones for a couple of days. We had nothing working at all. No electricity, anything. I had a generator, so that we kicked that in, and nobody had water. We had well water. I had well water, so all the city water was out for a long time. I had friends just coming up here
Mm.
getting water, and
Good.
it was just chainsaws every day for about a week. I was out there with the crew. We're just cutting through the trees were down on the road. It was like incredible how many trees were down on the roads and the driveways, and we just spent a week doing that. Came out of that, went, well, I got to know my neighbors. I had no idea it was the chainsaw culture that was like, a guy showed up. Everybody had these steels, right? The German
Yeah.
brand. And this
Yeah.
guy showed up and he brings in like, a Craftsman from Sears from 1983 or whatever it was from. And everybody's like, Craftsman, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Got some clips there, you can work on those. It was like brutal. It was brutal.
Well, I remember you actually were able to because we actually spoke at one point, and you go, I'm kind of resting right now. I've been on the chainsaw for the last couple hours,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you were breathing hard, but you were able to call out to me, but nothing local at the time.
no,
And I
weird.
still remember that, and I just said, because you were here, Jamie. I'm just going to tell you, this is the man who's the most professional guy I know in business period. That was, going through all this, cutting with a chainsaw, but he was still trying to figure out how to make our gig because he's never missed a gig.
I know.
And talk about a natural disaster
No.
stop him. You know, he's gone through snowstorms, driving through the Adirondacks and wherever else. But geez,
Everything, Charlotte, everything was down. Not just Asheville, but everything was down. And then it was like, my friend's like, you can't even get out of your street. How do you think you're going to get down throughout Charlotte? You know, I go, that's a good point. I mean, we can't even get out of the street yet. You're like going, I got to get to Charlotte.
yeah. I remember
We'll
getting
catapult just fire you down there.
Yeah, I remember getting a message back to you about a day or two later, just because it's so tough to just, you know, get through to you. And you were sending me stuff like, how can I help? What can I do? And I'm like, Rich, you survive where you're at right now, and I've got the rest. I got your back, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You were very, very good about it. Thank you.
No, I'm just excited that
Yeah, I'll be
have
there.
you back out here. Look forward to seeing you and sharing the stage with you. We've got a big room here in my backyard, the Admiral Theater, that's looking forward to having you take the stage this weekend.
Great. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
And I'm supposed to say hi from both Brad Upton and from Kevin Nealon. I had Nealon about 4 weeks ago, and he was talking about how when you and he were on Steve Martin's movie and
Yeah,
all
we
of
did. So we did Roxanne, and by the way, Brad Upton's great too. I didn't want to just say Kevin was great, not mention. I'm very happy with Brad's success. It's incredible. Not incredible because he's funny, but I mean, it's light big blow up, which is rare. But Neil and I are doing the movie Roxanne, and we're working out every day. And so I was doing this Schwarzenegger impression. You know, come on, people got to work you out, your little girly boy. You know, so it's like really funny because then he would do something live, and he's like, you know, can I use? I said, use it, man. Use everything you can get a hold of, man.
Isn't that?
You know,
and that turned into Hans and Franz.
Hans and Franz, but we had such a good time. He's such a good guy. Of course, he's very funny, very creative, and it was a blast. We were up there for a month to film this scene because they had to get a day that was cloudy but not raining because it was just so bizarre, you know, how they get hung up into these things in the scenes. And then we did a benefit show, and so Steve Martin's like, look, I'll host it. You know, we wanted to do a benefit because we were playing firemen, or these other guys were playing firemen. Kevin and I were just drunk number one and drunk number two. I don't know which. And bother to figure out whether he was one or two, but we were a couple of drunks. We were a couple of drunks who fight Steve Martin with ski poles. We're dressed, you know, we're dressed to play tennis. He's got a tennis racket. We got ski poles. Never explained why we have ski poles in the middle of the summer walking up the street with a six-pack there and a ski pole. But, you know, we had to fight with it. And anyway, so we did this benefit I came up with this idea. Let's do a benefit. We got all these comics. There were a bunch of comics, Steve Middleman and then Damon Wayans and Max Alexander. I can't remember everybody. There was a bunch of comics on this thing. And so we're going to do a benefit, and I'm talking to Steve on the set, and he says, "Great, just I'll host it, but don't let anybody know I'm going to host it, you know, because." I said, "Yeah, we won't put that in the paper or anything. We won't let it out." But the reporter from some other radio station overheard us, and he starts blasting. We didn't even know this because nobody was listening to his show.
Right.
You know? He starts, "Steve Martin will be performing up in, you know, Nelson, British Columbia." People were flying in seaplanes, landing in the lake.
God.
The place was like, you know, we had to do 2 shows. It was like 1,500 people and dragged into this bar. It was unreal. It was really unreal because they thought it was Steve Martin in concert. It was like,
I mean, just the rumor of him, because he hadn't been doing any stand-up.
Yeah, he virtually retired like in early 80s to do. So he hadn't done stand-up in like 5 years or 6 years. He's incredible. It's fun.
He's one of the nicest guys in the world, and I still remember him. An interview with him that he couldn't trust the crowd anymore because they laughed at everything about what was funny.
He said he was just He was just like directing an orchestra because they were all laughing on cue. You know, this is weird. I saw him at the Capitol Center outside of Washington D.C. back in '78. I'd been just doing stand up for a little while, banging around town. There were no comedy clubs or anything. I'm just going up and hootenanny nights and whatever, coffee houses. And I see them, and the Capitol Center is like 15,000 people. Now, there were no jumbo screens back then. He's one guy on stage, and the place it was like a laugh tornado. It was incredible. I was standing there just stunned. I just started doing stand-up. I couldn't imagine what he was doing up there, and it was incredible, right? Cut to, that's 78. So 10 years later, I'm working on Roxanne. And so they had me come do a reaction shot in the bar scene where, I don't know if you remember this, but heckled by a guy, and he comes up with 20 quick retorts about his big nose, right? And they were mostly, I don't know, what kind of jokes they were. I don't know if it were, how you can get here, but, below the belt guy material, male appendage joke. They were male appendage jokes, each one about his nose. So he goes to me, he says, will you come up, this is the night before we shoot this scene. He said, will you come up to my room and help me punch up these jokes, So I go up to his room, and I'm literally stunned for a minute and then it just becomes the work, working with him on these jokes, trying to make them better. But I'm like, 10 years ago, I was in the audience. I never thought I'd be doing stand-up like professionally. Now I'm sitting in a room with you working on your material. Now this, to me, the part that really gets me with the story is it's true. So at the end of the night, Steve Martin's not a huggy guy. He's not a huggy guy. He say, thanks, man. He grabs me, right? Gives me like a hug, right? And I leave. It's this Vancouver. It's kind of cool at night. I got a jacket on. I get back to my room, put my hand in my pocket, get my hotel room key. There's a big wad of cash in there.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Big
Class
wad.
act. Wow.
Very classy. Very classy. He's an old magician, man. He just slipped it in there. I never knew he slipped it in there.
Yeah.
I told him, I said,
where'd he go? I was waiting for him to say, for him to say that he put his room key in his pocket. He reached in his pocket for his room key, and he found somebody else's room key.
Oh my goodness sakes. Well, he may call us back, but doggone it, that's Rich Scheidner. Look at the stories right there. Oh, there you are.
You know what?
There we go.
Sorry, I don't know how to block this. I'm on my iPhone, and my son tried to call me, so I had to kind of try to.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Speak of money.
Yeah. That's one of those debit calls. You got to send him some cash, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of cash. How about sending me a couple of that wad? I'm a little of that wad.
Yeah. Yeah. He heard about the family wealth there, and he was coming after it there.
Well. Yeah. I told him, boss, you guys better work hard. You better work hard. There's no coming. Work hard.
Something that amazes me about you, Rich, is the last time I actually had you here, you had me set up a couple of off nights with just audiences that didn't know that it was you and that you were working on your history of stand-up comedy. And I got to, watch three different shows of that. And just like right now, just a couple stories that you've already told about stuff in your career, let alone these amazing stories about the history of comedy. I would watch the history of Rich Scheidner, let alone the history of comedy. I mean, goodness sakes, my friend.
I know, and I hope that when we do these shows, I want to do some of those stories, those history stories in the shows that I'm doing. Of course, I want to do straight stand up, but I want to do stories because there's a lot of audience. I mean, people, I do a Q&A at the end of these shows when I do the history show, and it's great because they'll mention some comic, and I've got stories pretty much on and almost everybody you've ever heard of.
Yeah.
And so if you mention anything right now, I could probably come up with a story on an old comic. But I just love the history of it. I do love it and how it's changed over the years and what's different. I was just did this thing. I'm doing these little pieces I'm already put out, but back in my day, everybody worked clean. I mean, it was like you kind of, when they had somebody come into town that worked blue, they would advertise a special X-rated show. Bobby Slate coming. Get ready, be careful. He's going to be around, right? And now. clean is like they'll go, it's going to be a clean show. You know, they have to warn the audience, hey, it's going to be clean. You
Right.
know?
Right.
But this one's going to be clean. You know, oh, I can wait next week when it gets dirty again. All right, I'll be back. Don't worry. But it's a whole different. Everything just changes, right?
So that's the code, huh? So clean means, everybody's welcome, and blue means watch out,
Yeah.
it's gonna get okay.
Blue, but today blue is the default. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
blue
actually,
is
in all the stuff that I produce, everything that I produce right now,
yeah.
I just keep it on the clean side, and then I still do the flip around. If they want a dirty show, I will put that together. But
It's just
it's
society. That's all.
yeah,
And we reflects this. So the older people ask me, why does everybody work so blue now and work so dirty? I said, because society's coarser. You go through the airport and people have curse words on their T-shirts. You know,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
it's like that's the way society is. So comics just reflect that. All we ever do is just reflect what's going on.
That's exactly it. That's well done right there.
So it's kind of interesting when I was working in TV, and now I can't remember the guy's name, but when he first came out, he was vulgar as could be, the comedian. You guys know who it is. But
Probably
he was doing,
Kinnison is what you're talking about at the time.
not Sam Kinison, it was another guy in the early 90s.
Andrew Dice Clay.
Him, yes, it was him.
Yeah.
He was doing a show at the Paramount, and
Uh-huh.
there was supposed to be a protest. And so the managing editor called me and said, "Hey, would you mind going and covering this show? But it's going to be pretty raunchy. Are you okay with that?" I'm like 22 years old. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do whatever." And yeah, boy, that was an eye opener too. That I guess you come to
Doc.
Yeah, you come to expect that from some people, but I think, and I do remember Sam Kinison, yeah, same. But it was it was such a shock that there had to be a disclaimer on it for.
Right. That's right. They had to have a disclaimer on it, and it just changes, and of course, there's people who want that. I once the protests for Dice Clay were not about him working blue. It was about the homophobic jokes he was doing and the misogynist jokes. One reviewer, I remember a reviewer of Dice Clay, this was one of the best review lines I've ever read, said, "The audience was filled with men who hate women and their girlfriends."
That's funny.
Right? That's a great reviewer. But I mean, he was very popular, and he had his moment. But Hickory Dickory Dock, all those rhymes, by the way, were stolen from Otto and George. Otto and George was a very dirty ventriloquist team. Andrew can't write a joke, but he's a great performer, a good actor. Obviously, he's been very successful. But Otto and George, those were his nursery lines.
See, look at that history of comedy right there, right in front of you.
Yeah,
there you go. And is that History of Comedy show somewhere online that people can find it? Or
no, I'm not. I haven't put it out there like that yet. I'm not sure. I mean, look, be honest with you. At the end of this year, if I don't get a streaming service come forward and say we'd like to do this thing, I think it's a great show for that. If nobody comes forward, I'm going to go out to LA, probably LA, tape 2 shows, and put it on YouTube and just give it away. I mean, I'm not interested in banging this thing around the country for the next 20 years just to see what's what. And already there's other comics already starting to do kind of history things now. You know how
I can see it. I can see that happening. But I tell you, the well you dig down deep into, going all the way back to the Civil War and I mean, it just truly the amount of research you've done is just impeccable, man.
Artemus Ward, he was every bit of a comic, and he started doing it in the Civil War. It's incredible. He's an incredible story. I wrote a screenplay about him. Here's an incredible story. And you can't even remember, Jamie, back in that time, they would only put a little bit of humor, a little bit of comedy in any kind of presentation, whether it's a lecture or play, because polite society, respectable society, it was thought that if you're laughing at somebody. So to laugh too much is being rude. So they'd only put, that's like comic relief, right? Put a little comic relief in a lecture or a play or whatever. And this guy's coming out and he's doing a whole show of comedy, a whole show of comedy. And young people were digging it, right? Because it was so radical and they needed that distraction. You know, in times of war, regular entertainment doesn't cut it anymore. You know, you need something new and special. And he was that. So he was hugely popular. And young people got it, but old people would walk out of the show going, you know, it's a frivolous waste of time. I'm laughing, but I'm not learning anything, because they come to a thing, they want to learn a moral lesson, or they want to, everything was about lessons back then, learn something. And so there was this one time where he bombed. This is up in California, in the Sacramento area. He bombs, right? Bombs at the show. And every comic goes through it. And he can't get a laugh and he can't figure it out. The audience, he just bombs. So, but he wants to know what happens. So he gets off stage, he runs around the back of the theater, comes up the front so he can listen to people going out, hear what they're saying. And these two old guys are coming out. One of them says, "That young fella sure was funny." The other one says, "Sure was. All I could do not to laugh at him."
Oh my goodness.
Oh, interesting.
Things changed.
Wow.
He was a huge star. Lincoln was a fan. He used to go into the White House and swap stories with Abraham Lincoln. He taught Mark Twain how to do it. Twain then became like sort of the second stand-up, and essentially he got Twain's first story published. He was a really incredible guy at that time. And, you know, he drank. He had died of tuberculosis. That was a big killer back then, TB.
Yeah.
Huge. They called it TB. It was consumption, they called it, or, you know, lung disease. Call it the White Death. I mean, young people, it killed a huge percentage of young people back then.
Wow.
Yeah. So he died when he was 33.
Oh, that's amazing.
London, that's what and London called it an original American art form. He went over there, did it in London, and they were wowed, man. And they said, London Times wrote an obituary about him. That's where he died, in London. That London fog was not good for TV. And they wrote an obituary, said, "This is an American original. We've never seen this. One man with his wits controlling the humor of an entire room. This is an American original." And so, yeah, it was, I love that. I love this stuff. I mean, he had jokes. Some of his jokes, you know, today, they're his jokes, but you don't know they're his jokes. Like, you ever hear this one? He says, if somebody says it's not the money, but the principle of the thing, it's the money of the thing. That's his line.
Is it really?
And he said, he had a lot of great lines. This is when he says, we must all live within our means, even if we have to borrow money to do so.
Oh man.
He had a lot of, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy, you know. So,
oh yeah, that stuff is still going on today. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so interesting too how the times have changed, that now, I mean, people go spend money and just to laugh. And if there aren't enough laughs, then people walk out upset and frustrated. Yeah.
But see, people, you know what you're doing, and this is for me. I know. See, if you sit home and you watch a special on TV, you don't laugh out loud. It's just you sitting there. You really don't laugh. You laugh when you hear other people laugh.
Yeah.
And you sit at home, now you'll get a sense. You go, well, this person's funny. It's a funny special. And then you'll want to go see them live, because when you're in that room laughing, you're laughing like you did when you were kids. When we were kids, we laughed like crazy all the time. But the older you get, you start losing that. You know, life weighs on you, responsibility, the seriousness, whatever it is, and you laugh less and less. But when you come out to a comedy club, you're going to laugh more than you probably have in a year. I mean, you know, people, the best thing is when people come up after the show as a comic and they go, "My face hurts." I go, "Good." You know, I love nothing more than if you're up there and you got to roll. When you're pounding them, man, you're running them. That's what I call it, running them. You're running them, and you see them and they're waving you off like, "Stop." They can't stop laughing. You're like, no, I'm going to run you. I'm going to run you right into, you know what I mean? You don't get that. It's like a drug trip. It is. I mean, you get all these endorphins and everything, but you don't laugh like that until you get to a live show. And it's really the most honest thing. You can't fake laughter. Like, they're faking. Music has lost it. You know, generational things. In my day, Jamie, you look like a lot younger than me. But in my day, the early 70s, we all went to rock concerts. That was a place, every place, you know, it's like Woodstock. You needed that generational gathering where you look around and everybody's your age pretty much, and you're all there agreeing on this music, you know, pumping your fists at the same time in the air to some song or whatever.
Yeah.
But music now has lost its respect for the audiences because they're lip syncing, you know, they're faking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's not any groups like that anymore. It's all dancing on stage. You know, they're lip syncing the songs, right, to a track. But comedy has become the generational gathering place. That's why you got guys like Kevin Hart or Bill Burr or even Nikki Glaser now, or track.
Yeah.
They're playing stadiums. They're playing places that the
Right.
rock used to play, and gathering 40, 50,000 people who are all, that's their generational gathering. They look around and go, look, we're all this kind of the same age. We
Yeah.
all we're all laughing at the same time. There's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of reassurance as a human being. It's a cool thing. And it's bigger than ever. Comedy's bigger than it's ever been. There are so many more great comics now. It's crazy. And of course, there's so many more bad ones. It's crazy.
Well, it is amazing how many, because I get emails constantly from Ticketmaster and Access and whatever, and there's always at least a couple of big comedy shows, like you say, in arenas. And I looked at one that's coming to Climate Pledge, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to go to a giant arena and see a comedian. I think comedy is such an intimate thing.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
It's best in a small room, a theater, small theater. You know, look, I've done the big shows. I've opened up for people. I've never attracted that many people myself, but I've opened up for Ron White and Jeff Foxworthy and Bill Maher. I've opened up for people who attract big crowds. It's like a bus. You have to get them and moving in one direction and keep them going. You can't stop and do crowd work. You can't play. You can't riff with, right?
Yeah.
It's not, but when you're in a small room, it's like a Maserati or a sports car. You know, you stop, start, move this way, that way, and it's just, and again, it is that intimate feeling of experience of the comics really here tonight, and really this is a special show. You're not going to see this show tomorrow night at some other theater. It's a special.
Yeah, that's exactly the best part about live stand-up comedy. Is it is a live experience for everybody in that room, and the dynamic of the people for that evening, from a professional like yourself that feels every corner of the room. And you know, it's not your town. You're coming to their backyard, and you're turning that microscope back onto them, back onto you, and it's a back and forth thing that no other medium does.
So I'll tell you this a story. So this is back in the early '90s. I go out on the road. My last TV pilot, it didn't go to a series. You know, I did every network and twice, 5 pilots shot. So they send me out on the road again, and I'm in Columbia. I'm in not Columbia. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, right? And there's a new hockey arena, a little hockey arena, and across the street, a new sports bar with a comedy club in it. So I get on stage, I start going, and this guy heckles, but not a adversarial heckle. I know, you know, there's people that are just seeing if you're there live that night, you know, let me see if this got any riff with him, you know. And so we riffed, and this guy and I riffed, and it was hilarious. And everybody's there. He's getting laughs, I'm getting laughs, and we riff for a while. Then he pulls back, like brilliantly pulls back, and I run of material. Then and we got a rhythm going. And then I take a drink of water and look out in the audience, and he come back and we play. And then he pulled back, riff again. Then I run on material. This was a 2-hour show. Went nuts. The place was going crazy. Okay, all right. I didn't know they all could see who the guy was. I couldn't see who the guy was. After the show, the manager comes over and he says, "You know who that guy was?" I said, "No." I said, "That's Sean Penn." Sean Penn was there.
No way.
Yeah, he was going to be acting in this movie, Dead Man Walking. So it goes, Sean Penn, and he wants to hang out with you, you know, tonight. And so the manager's going to hang out, right? I said, okay. Well, now, so what I'm just telling you, that show, I can tell you the end of the story in a minute, but that show, those people, those 300 people, they all said, I saw Sean Penn and this guy go at it one night. They saw never going to happen again. It didn't never happen again.
Yeah.
But anyways, Penn goes, I want to hang out. We hang out all night, right? I'm not. He's partying, but I'm straight. I'm just drinking Diet Cokes,
Yeah.
5 in the morning. I can't hang with him anymore. I'm not doing, you know what I'm saying? I'm not doing the rocket fuel to keep it going. I go, it's time for me to go, go
Yeah.
back to the hotel. So I said, he goes, no, before you go, I got to tell you something. And I think he's going to say, hey, you and me, we got to do a movie together or something, right? He goes, you got to move to Los Angeles. And I went, as I walked back to Waffle House by myself, I go, I thought he knew who I was. He had no idea who I was. He just thought he stumbled across a funny guy in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, right.
I've been in LA doing this for 10 years. I'm not getting anywhere. This guy doesn't know who I am. So I immediately went home, right? And and a friend says, look, call up everybody know who has a sitcom and get a job writing. Because I had a kid, I didn't want to be on the road all the time. So I called Jerry Seinfeld and I called up Tim Allen and I called up Roseanne, who all had series at the time. And Roseanne called me back that night and gave me a job, and that was it. I'm off the road. Like TV.
Wow. Man, to have a camera on for a night like that and to be able to tape a special when that the lightning is out of the bottle, it never happens. And what a great story, Rich.
That's incredible. I'm sure you have a million stories from being on the road and being in clubs.
That's what I have. I may not know how to rebuild a car engine. I may not be able to do your plumbing, but if you want some BS stories while we're changing, I'll keep you entertained. Okay.
That's awesome.
That's all that matters.
You never repeated a story. I said, and we'll go back out for 7 more days. That's all I got, man. The stories.
That's it.
That's
cool.
cool.
I can't wait to break bread with you and hang out with you. And Rich, I know I said we were only going to do a few minutes here, and we've gone a little bit longer. But God, I love you for that, my friend. And every time I turn around, you're just giving, and you're giving back to me, and you're giving on the stages, and just know you're a loved man, and I really appreciate you coming on our show today, my friend.
Appreciate it, Chris. I look forward to seeing you Thursday, and Jamie, nice meeting you. I hope
well.
Come out to the show.
Yeah, so Saturday night, the Admiral Theater. Saturday, yeah, Chris?
Yep.
Okay.
Saturday, March 1st. We're ending up February, bringing you in March 1st. Bang. Ticket sales are phenomenal. I can't wait to have you. Like I said, breaking a little bit of bread and spending some time with my good friend. And thank you for coming on the show today, my friend. And I'll see you in a couple of days.
All right. Checking out.
All right. Safe travels.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, that's going to be an amazing show on Saturday night at the Admiral. So
just think about this. He is going to open up at the end of that show to questions. And then you just saw just a peek over the fence of the wealth of knowledge and the amount of people he's played with, worked with, done stuff with. Just those last 3 names he drops are just all haymakers. And he's got stories about all of them. So
that's cool. No, that's going to be amazing. Yeah. So go grab your tickets if you don't have them yet for Saturday night at the Admiral Theater. And that's going to be a good time. So enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. And Friday night, the Rotary is doing a show at the Cloverleaf. So if you want to come out and support, I've got Quinn Fitzgerald and Amos Mack at that one on Friday night. So they're
very
at the
cool.
That one I think is almost sold out, but anyways, it will sell out as well.
Great. Well, have a fantastic week, and I will see you then next week. And have some great shows in between, and everybody go out and do something good.
Do some good out there. We'll see you guys all next Tuesday. Thank you, Jamie.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.